Your doctor hands you a prescription for diabetes medication. $60 a month for the rest of your life. He tells you to cut sugar from your diet completely. No more dessert. No more sweetness. Just bitter pills and bitter food until you die. You leave the pharmacy and walk through the parking lot. There, growing through a crack in the asphalt, is a plant with leaves 300 times sweeter than sugar. A plant that does not spike your blood glucose. A plant that actually reverses the damage diabetes causes to your kidneys. A plant that indigenous healers used for 500 years before pharmaceutical companies figured out how to synthesize its active compounds and sell them back to you for $1,000 a dose. This plant was legal to grow in America until 1991. Then the FDA issued a ban. Not because it was dangerous, not because it killed anyone, but because it threatened a $90 billion industry that depends on you staying sick. They called it an unsafe food additive. They raided importers. They destroyed crops. They made it illegal to sell the leaves while simultaneously approving the isolated chemical extract at 400 times the cost. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is documented regulatory capture. And the plant they tried to erase is still growing wild in half the gardens in the southern United States right now. You have been lied to about sweetness. You have been told that sweet equals poison, that anything that tastes good must be bad for you, that pleasure and health are opposites. But what if I told you there is a leaf that makes honey taste bland, that has 0 calories, 0 glycemic impact, and contains compounds that protect your pancreas, lower your blood pressure, and reduce inflammation throughout your entire body? What if I told you that leaf also happens to be one of the easiest plants on earth to grow, requiring nothing but sunlight and dirt? The sugar industry does not want you to know this plant exists. The artificial sweetener industry spent decades trying to destroy its reputation, and your government made it nearly impossible to access the real thing while flooding the market with processed imposters. This is the story of the leaf they could not kill. This is Stevia. Welcome to Soil and Secrets. In 1493, Spanish conquistadors landed in what is now Paraguay. They came for gold, they came for slaves, they came to conquer. But the Guarani people, the indigenous inhabitants of the region, were not impressed by European sugar. They had something better. They called it ka'ahe, the sweet herb. They had been using it for centuries, not just to sweeten their bittermate tea, but as medicine. They chewed the leaves to suppress hunger during long hunts. They used it to treat burns and wounds. They gave it to children with stomach pain. They brewed it for people with heart trouble. It was not just food. It was pharmacy. The Spanish wrote about it. They documented it. And then they ignored it. Why? Because sugar was the economy. By the 1600s, European empires were built on plantations. Millions of enslaved people were forced to grow, harvest, and process sugarcane. Sugar was not just profit. It was power. A plant that made sugar obsolete was a plant that threatened the entire colonial system. So they buried it. They brought sugarcane to South America and forced the Guarani to grow it instead. They replaced the medicine with the poison. And for 300 years, stevia remained a regional secret, unknown outside of Paraguay. Then in 1904, a Swiss botanist named Moises Santiago Bertoni finally published a proper scientific description. He called it Stevia rebaudiana. He noted that a single leaf could sweeten an entire cup of tea. He wrote that the indigenous people claimed it had healing properties. But Europe was not interested. They had sugar, they had money, they had empires to maintain. So once again, stevia disappeared from Western consciousness. It took a war to change that. During World War II, sugar was rationed. Suddenly, governments were desperate for alternatives. Japan, cut off from global supply chains, sent researchers to South America. They brought stevia seeds back in 1954. Within 20 years, Japan had commercialized it. By 1970, Japanese companies were extracting the sweet compounds from the leaves and using them in everything from soy sauce to soft drinks. Today, stevia accounts for 40% of the sweetener market in Japan. In a country obsessed with longevity and health, stevia is not controversial. It is normal. But in America, it was about to become illegal. In 1984, the artificial sweetener industry was worth billions. Aspartame, sold as NutraSweet and Equal, dominated the market. Saccharin, sold as Sweet and Low, had been around since 1879. These were chemical compounds created in laboratories, patented by corporations, and sold at massive profit margins. Then stevia started appearing in American health food stores, not as a sweetener, not as a food additive, but as a dietary supplement, a loophole. People were buying dried stevia leaves and stevia extract to use in their tea and coffee. They were growing it in their gardens, and they were telling their friends that it worked better than the chemical alternatives, with none of the weird aftertaste. The artificial sweetener lobby panicked. In 1986, an anonymous complaint was filed with the IFTA. The complaint claimed that stevia was an unsafe food additive. It provided no evidence, no studies, no data, just an accusation. The IFTA responded by launching an investigation, and in 1991, they issued an import alert. Stevia was now banned. Companies selling it had their products seized. Importers were raided. The IFTA claimed they needed more safety data, but here is the irony. By 1991, stevia had been used in Japan for over 20 years. Millions of people consumed it daily. There were no deaths, no hospitalizations, no adverse effects. Japan had conducted extensive safety testing and found nothing. But the FDA ignored all of it. Then something strange happened. In 1994, Congress passed the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act. This law created a legal category for supplements that were not classified as food or drugs. Suddenly, stevia could be sold again, but only if it was labeled as a dietary supplement, not as a sweetener. You could buy stevia powder to put in your tea, but a tea company could not use stevia to sweeten their product. You could grow it in your garden, but you could not call it food. It was a legal absurdity designed to protect corporate interests while giving the appearance of consumer choice. And then the final betrayal came. In 2008, Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, working with chemical companies, developed a way to isolate specific sweet compounds from stevia. They called them rebaudioside A and steviol glycosides. These purified extracts were 99% pure white powder that looked and acted like any other chemical sweetener. The FDA approved them immediately, not as supplements, as food additives. The same agency that banned the whole leaf for being unsafe suddenly declared the isolated chemical version to be perfectly safe. Why? Because now it was patentable. Now it was profitable. Now it was controlled. Walk into any grocery store today and you will find Truvia, stevia in the raw, and pure via. These products are not stevia. They are highly processed extracts mixed with fillers like erythritol and dextrose. They cost 10 times more than growing the plant yourself. And they contain none of the additional beneficial compounds present in the whole leaf. You are paying for a chemical facsimile of something that grows for free. The corporations took the medicine, stripped it down to one molecule, repackaged it, and sold it back to you at a 400% markup. This is not innovation. This is theft. But the whole leaf never went away. It kept growing. It kept healing. And the science kept proving what the Guarani knew 500 years ago. In 2000, researchers at the University of Maringá in Brazil tested stevia extract on diabetic rats. The results were shocking. Not only did stevia not raise blood glucose, it actually lowered it. It increased insulin sensitivity. It protected pancreatic beta cells from damage. Follow-up studies on humans confirmed the same effects. A 2010 study in the journal Appetite found that people who consumed stevia before a meal ate fewer calories and reported feeling fuller. A 2013 study showed stevia reduced blood pressure in people with hypertension. A 2017 analysis found that the compounds in stevia had anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and even anti-cancer properties. The leaf is not just safe, it is actively therapeutic. But you will never see that information on a Truvia packet, because acknowledging the medical benefits of the whole plant would require admitting that the FDA banned it to protect pharmaceutical profits, not public health. The system is not broken. It is working exactly as designed. It keeps you sick, dependent, and paying. So where does that leave you? It leaves you with a choice. You can keep buying the chemical substitute at $10 a box, or you can grow the real thing for free. Stevia rebaudiana is a perennial herb in the sunflower family. It grows 2 to 3 feet tall with small oval leaves and tiny white flowers. It is native to subtropical climates, but will grow anywhere you can grow tomatoes. In colder zones, treat it like basil. Plant it after the last frost. Give it full sun and well-drained soil. It does not need fertilizer. It does not need chemicals. It just grows. In warmer climates, zones 8 and above, it will survive the winter and come back year after year, getting larger and more productive with each season. Start from seed or buy a transplant from a nursery. Seeds are tricky. They need light to germinate, so do not bury them. Just press them onto the surface of moist soil and keep them warm. In 2 weeks, you will have seedlings. Once they are 6 inches tall, plant them outside, spacing them 12 inches apart. Water them regularly for the first month until they establish roots. After that, they are drought tolerant. The plant will grow bushy and dense. In late summer, before it flowers, the sweetness in the leaves peaks. This is when you harvest. Cut the stems 6 inches from the ground. Strip the leaves. Dry them on a screen in a warm, dark place until they crumble. Store them in a jar. 1 leaf, fresh or dried, will sweeten a full cup of tea. Crush them into powder and you can use them in baking, though heat reduces the sweetness slightly. For maximum sweetness, make a liquid extract. Steep a handful of dried leaves in a cup of hot water for 30 minutes. Strain it. The liquid will be dark and intensely sweet. A few drops replace a spoonful of sugar. This extract stores in the fridge for 2 weeks or in the freezer indefinitely. You now have a 0-calorie, 0-glycemic medicinal sweetener that cost you nothing but time and sunlight. You are no longer dependent on corporations. You are no longer poisoning your body with chemical substitutes. You are growing medicine. But here is the part they really do not want you to understand. This is not just about sweetness. This is about autonomy. Every plant you grow that replaces a product you used to buy is a small act of rebellion. Every time you refuse to participate in a system designed to extract wealth from your health, you weaken that system. The sugar industry does not fear stevia because it is sweet. They fear it because it is free. The pharmaceutical industry does not fear stevia because it is a supplement. They fear it because it works. The government does not regulate stevia to protect you. They regulate it to protect the industries that fund their campaigns. You were told that healing requires intervention, that health requires experts and institutions and prescriptions. But the Guarani did not have pharmacies. They had forests. They had knowledge. They had plants that did not ask for money or permission or insurance approval. And those plants still exist. They are still free. They are still growing. The system buried stevia once. They will try again. Not with bans this time, but with contamination, with bad information, with processed imposters that make you think you have already tried the real thing and did not like it. Do not let them win. Grow it. Use it. Teach someone else. Every garden that contains stevia is a garden that does not need the sugar industry. Every person who learns this plant is a person who stops funding their own sickness. The sugar that heals is not a metaphor. It is a leaf. It is growing in gardens across the southern United States right now, defying the corporations that tried to erase it. It survived 500 years of colonialism, 50 years of regulatory suppression, and a multi-billion-dollar smear campaign. It survived because it works. It survived because the truth is resilient. And it is waiting for you to remember what the Guarani never forgot. Sweetness is not the enemy. The system that profits from your suffering is. If you are ready to grow your own medicine, subscribe to Soil and Secrets. Hit the notification bell, because every script we release is a seed for the revolution they are trying to prevent. And tell me in the comments, are you still buying chemical sweeteners, or are you ready to grow the real thing? Knowledge is not lost. It is just waiting for you to plant it.